let's face it. I mean, we've had some of the best players in the history of the NFL play for us, and players want to play with them. You know, players want to play with Lamar Jackson. You know, I really do kind of laugh at the notion that players don't want to come here and play with Lamar because he's one of the very best young players in the NFL. And we've got a lot of other young players as well that fit that criteria. So I think it's a great place to play. I think people want to play here. I think it's a team that's positioned well for the future. It's not all about getting the, quote, #1 receiver that everybody likes to talk about. We will certainly look at that. We would try to upgrade every single position on this football team this offseason if we can, based on the parameters of what we have to work with draft pick-wise, money-wise, and all the other challenges associated with building a football team.
Look, Eric DeCosta, GM of the Ravens, great at what he does, said what he had to say. The bottom line is they're not going to attract guys there who want to catch the football until they prove to people that they are going to throw the football more than they do. It's that simple.
Yeah.
No one wants to go and block for Lamar Jackson. No one wants to go and say, hey, I'm buddies with Lamar Jackson. They want to go and advance their career by catching the ball. That's why Stephon Diggs wanted out of Minnesota. He wanted to catch the ball more, and that's okay. But the reality is, good luck attracting high-end receiving free agent talent if you don't have an offense that is fully diversified and entails throwing the football to the guys who want to catch it, Chris.
No, I mean, I agree with you, Mike. I mean, first off, like, I agree with, like, just about everything Eric DeCosta said there. I think players, you know, NFL players, everything like that, yes, they want to go to Baltimore and play with Lamar Jackson, no doubt about it. But that doesn't mean receivers do, like you're talking about. That's the difference. Yeah, that's a special culture there. Everybody knows how special Lamar is. You know, people want to go there. You know, there's, you know, Yannick Ngakoue. We saw how happy he was there to be a part of Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Calais Campbell, same thing. You know, Earl Thomas, he had a chance. You know, he goes there last year. So people want to go there, but it's the receiver thing that's the issue. And I'm with you. I don't think – I mean – I don't know, like, yes, I don't think a big-time receiver is going to sign there unless they are offered significantly more from Baltimore. I do think it's something they're going to have to do through the draft or kind of get guys that are under the radar bargains where, hey, these teams didn't want them, but we think you're really good, come here. It's going to be those type of guys until you see, like you said, better stats, more receptions, more wide receiver involvement. The stats we just showed right there, that's the playoffs included. I mean, the leading receivers got 69 receptions. Yeah, the DeAndre Hopkins of the world are not going to want to go play for an offense like that necessarily.
Well, and then your young guys, if you do draft them like a Hollywood Brown, why would you sign an extension if you're Hollywood Brown?
That's going to be a
play
big
it out
too.
And go somewhere else. So they're going to use the franchise tag to justify that kind of investment financially in a guy that they don't get full use out of because they don't throw the football. They just draft somebody else. I mean, that's what will happen. They'll draft young receivers. They'll rely on them. When their contracts expire, they'll leave, and it'll be lather, rinse, repeat.
Yeah.
That's going to be the story of the Lamar Jackson career in Baltimore unless and until they truly do develop a passing game because, guys aren't going to want to say, I want to be part of the winning culture in Baltimore. I want to be part of this organization. No, they're going to say, receivers are going to say, I want to go somewhere where I can have all those things, and the football comes my way more frequently.
Right. Well, and they can do that there in Baltimore. I mean, they can. Listen, if you're open, Lamar can hit you. There's no doubt about that. He's got all the tools necessary to be a really effective passer. We've seen him get better every year. The offense needs to help him out a little bit. And they need, within that offense, yes, if they want to help, you know, remedy this problem and things like that, yeah, they got to continue to show that they can. It doesn't always have to be 100 receptions, but if you're going to be Hollywood Brown and have 58 receptions in the regular season, okay, then he can't go the whole regular season with only like one rushing attempt. You got to find other ways to get the guys the ball, right, to make them feel a part of the offense and things like that. So that is something they're going to have to figure out, and I think we both agree. Their passing offense has to grow for them to make a run in the playoffs to begin with. But I love Lamar Jackson, and we both agree he should be paid like one of the top quarterbacks in football this offseason. At least that's what I think. I think you think that. We
saw them incorporate more Hollywood Brown into the playoff win over the Titans You need that creativity.
Yeah.
There's been some pressure on Greg Roman. Steve Smith called for the Ravens to fire Greg Roman and install an offensive coordinator who will open things up for Lamar Jackson. And I agree with you. He deserves to get paid. It's not the ideal year to do it. We talked recently about how Baker Mayfield and Lamar Jackson are both, along with Josh Allen, in this window now where they can get new deals. But Mayfield making so much more as the first pick in 2018, Jackson making so much less as the last pick in round one. It's a tough problem for the Ravens this year because the salary cap is expected to be in the range of $180 million. When do you break the bank for Lamar Jackson, and how much of that injury risk do you take off the table? Because that's the big issue with him. When he became the starter, there were people who were like, hey, this is going to be fun while it lasts. And I think a lot of people are amazed it's lasted as long as it has.
It's amazing.
And you have to, and so at what point do you say, okay, this is a guy who just is built in a way that he's going to be able to deal with it? He's not going to get injured like other mobile quarterbacks would? Or do you say, well, you know what's going to happen? The minute we give this guy huge money, that's when the wheels are going to start to come off.
Well, that's going to be on them. They're the one in person seeing the guy, and they know the guy. They get to see him on the field. I mean, what we can say to this point is he hasn't been hurt, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we've never even seen him roll around on the ground. He's never even rolled around on the ground like, oh, this hurts for a second before I get up. I mean, he's always just pops right back up. And there's only been a few times where I really feel like people have gotten real big hits on him or anything like that through his 3 years so far. So, yes, that is the risk with this type of running back, certainly. But I think through 3 years, he's proven he's pretty damn good at taking care of himself.
And at some point, we saw this with Steve Young. We saw this with Steve McNair. You have to transition away from that if you want to play at a high level deep into your 30s. Tom Brady's getting it done at 43, not because he's running around, but because he's stationary and he's taking advantage of his arm. And so to have that long career, and we've talked about, will quarterbacks be able to extend their careers into the 40s? They will, but you're going to have to understand that you got to work within the boundaries of mobility that necessarily will decrease, although who knows. 20 years from now, with the advances in training and the guys who are spending all their time 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, thinking about it, working out, constantly turning their bodies into this machine that can keep going and going. Maybe Lamar Jackson will preserve his mobility beyond the age of 40. Either way, the Ravens want to keep him around, and at some point they surely will figure out a contract that keeps him there. The question is, can they figure out the offense that allows them? We've talked about some of these teams that are just kind of like bumping up against the ceiling. The Ravens have a ceiling. Well, everybody in the AFC has a ceiling. It's called the Kansas City Chiefs. But what do you do to bust through that ceiling?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you said it. It is kind of the offense going to that next phase of being able to be a little more diverse, scare you with a precision pass game, an explosive pass game that you're worried about, whoa, we got to play this defense because they could throw it over our heads. And now the pulling guards and J.K. Dobbins have even a bigger effect. But that to me, for a team that's still in its Super Bowl window and still very talented, is the one thing that needs to be adjusted, going into 2021.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.